we should mention that, we are not booking professionals. We are not businessmen.
Hmm.
Although sometimes we like to pretend that we are.
I mean, you're a businessman. Fuck out of here, dude.
Well, look, I read a comment from some gentleman who shall not be named that said we shouldn't be giving Tony Khan any
Oh, that's
business
right.
advice
That's
on what to do about CM Punk. And I was like, sir, if you think Tony Khan is scrolling YouTube and clicking on random CM Punk videos, trying to figure out how do I get out of this one, let me see what
Mhm.
the three amigos are saying. We would be so lucky.
We
We
would be
would
so
be
lucky.
so lucky. Oh
Hashtag
my God.
blessed, baby.
Could you imagine if Tony Khan went out there last week and was like, well, after watching the Three Amigos podcast, I've decided effective immediately CM Punk is fired because he sucks and he botches everything. No, but one of the things that I did want to bring up, because there's like a few points about sort of just areas after 3 years that we'd kind of like to see AEW start to work on a little bit.
Hmm.
The first, I think the most glaring one, not that the women's stuff isn't important, but they do have a much stronger women's division now than they did.
Sure.
Just that like the booking itself still is kind of struggling to catch up to the talent that they now have. But the one I wanted to talk to you about is the pay-per-views,
Yeah.
because when AEW first started, we were all very excited
Yep.
for a 15 match card because there were a lot of guys on AEW that we didn't really get a chance to see much of. The
Hmm.
Young Bucks were in Japan for a long time. Same with Kenny Omega. Like, not exactly super convenient to try to watch their matches.
Nope.
And so, every pay-per-view really did feel like such a special event. But over the years, I think the the reaction, at least online, seems to have switched a little bit towards people are not really crazy about how long these shows are getting. And I wanted to get your opinion on how are you feeling about the most recent pay-per-view being, I believe, 14 or 15
It was
matches long.
14 matches long.
Uh,
Yeah, I.
5 hours.
It's funny because I actually this was gonna we were gonna talk collectively about the women's and I was gonna hit you with the card match and now you did it to me, you bastard. So you stole my idea.
I distracted the ref.
No, hit me in the face with a chair. What do you think about the matches? The match cards, they're long. I'm not gonna lie. They're really, really
Yeah.
long. They're really long. My wife hates it as she's coughing around in the background, like she totally agrees on how long these damn matches cards are.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember she said some really
yeah,
bad things about CM Punk, and we had to
yeah,
cut them out of the episode.
yeah. She said,
It was,
"Fuck that," and then we had to bleep it all out.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But the cards are. I don't, I think my my theory is Tony loves wrestling so much he wants to emulate what New Japan has created, and only
Yeah.
the only thing New Japan is capable of doing is what they do. The only way anyone can replicate what New Japan does is New Japan. That's the
Yeah.
only company that's able to do it. I see Tony trying to replicate it here in the States, adopting things like Trios Championship, which is something that's not that didn't really exist in the States. That was from my first experience of Trios tag team, like on a regular show, well, not on a constant show basis on a platform that wasn't WWE and and whatever big promotions at the time were there. And Trios Championship was Mexico. It was Mexico. That's they had Trios Championship. They had even Quad Championships at some point, I think. Mixed Tag Championships, and then also in Japan. Now they have, I think, Trios Championships. I'm not sure, but the point is, he's a fan of the other things of wrestling that wasn't strictly WWE, heavyweight and light heavyweight and cruiserweight. Tony Khan is a huge fan of wrestling in general, and I
Right.
like that he's adopted this stuff. However, not everything has to be adopted. I mean, you're on the mindset that you don't need trios championships. Great, I respect that opinion. It's not for everybody. I grew up watching it as a kid, love
Well,
seeing all these
I
Max
I
Luchadors.
should cut in here. I think one of my reasons for not being crazy about it, even though I do love the teams that they have in AEW,
Right?
this is a maybe something we'll talk about after this point, but I think AEW has too many titles.
I guess that's another.
So,
I think
and
that's
I
another
and I
issue you want
think
to add in there.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I just think Tony's gotten like because he doesn't have a team, he's certain championships he keeps introducing
Mm-hmm.
new ones and then proceeds to not really book
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
at all in
Yep.
some cases.
Yep.
Um, I remember when we watched, I guess it was All Out, and after I got home, because I left about halfway through and like watched the end of it on the
Yeah.
highlights. I scrolled through the match card, and there were at least 6 matches that could have been on TV. Like could have been on Dynamite or Rampage. That did not need to be
Yeah.
on the pay-per-view.
Or it didn't need to have a pre-show. Like,
Yeah, and so I guess like it's you know I hate to compare everything like WWE versus AEW, but I really thought Triple H perfected the pay-per-view card of like 5 to 6 matches, 2.5 hours,
mm-hmm.
because the crowd, even if they can only be so hot.
Yeah.
So either you can try to bottle it for 2 hours, or you can book a 5 hour show and they'll be hot here and there. And some matches it's gonna sound like you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
But there were, I think, like what's kind of frustrating about it is that at the beginning of AEW, all of the matches on most of the pay-per-views felt like they needed to be there. And a lot of the matches on some of the
Mm.
recent pay-per-views, like, have, I mean, I think one of the biggest offenders was Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine
Yeah.
Guns
Yeah.
versus the revival, sorry, not the revival, versus FTR and
FTR and
Wardlow,
that
which
was
involved uh a total of what, 4 championships that weren't defended on the show, because the FTR holds like 3 titles and Wardlow has one.
yeah, and then also guess who
And
came out was Joe, and he has the ROH television title,
another title.
a whole other company that Tony
Well,
owns.
it's just like what WWE got really guilty of towards a lot of their like Vince McMahon pay-per-views, was that there would be matches on there where you're like, this feels like a Raw main event. Like, why is this on a pay-per-view? Like,
Yeah,
like if
yeah,
you're only going to give a match like 10 minutes, why are you even putting it on the pay-per-view at all?
yeah,
And that match felt like it. The Jade Cargill Athena match sort of felt like it because it was kind of a squash, which is a
yeah,
weird way to treat Athena.
yeah,
Um, there were just, Jungle Boy. That one's kind of a wash because Christian was hurt.
yeah.
Um,
But that
there were
was a
just a
hot. That
Hobbs.
was
One of the ones that was annoying though was that Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, which had like a great build, and then they had like a 3-minute match.
so okay. So here is so I guess now I can jump in back in here. Thank you very much, sir. um, they definitely need to short things down. I'm gonna steal something from what you said. Is to fix this, then you need to have more pay-per-views. Have more pay-per-views, which they try to do these specials. I know they try to do like these like was it Fight for the Fallen, Fighter Fest, but those usually like
Mm,
either like are like aren't hyped up or are just on a weekday show. Just instead of being called Dynamite, they just call it something else that day. I don't know. Create something new, more themed. Have a pay per view like once every 3 months, every 2 months,
I would
like
say every two.
every
I feel
two.
like they have
Keep
a
it.
pretty big roster.
Yeah. So All Out just happened. That was August, September. Or actually, no. Did it happen September? I forgot. Um, Point is,
No, that was August, and we're coming up on,
Full Gear is going to be in November. That's a good
yeah.
time frame. I think that's a good time frame. Have
That's
some.
solid, and they're having the Arthur Ashe show
But
next
then
week.
that's a Wednesday. But see, like that. So see, that's my other thing too. Is like that's a way to fix it. Is like they have good ways of hyping their weekly television shows when they like rename them like that. I think that's really
Yeah.
unique. It's really cool. Like I said, they do Fighter Fest, or they even did one for like to promote the damn dragon, the House of Dragons, New Game of Thrones, and
Yeah.
named it like something like it's really smart, like advertising, and like hyping up a show. Do something. Do more of those. Do more of those. Hype it up. Do more champ. Just defend your championships and do the big programs on TV. I don't think it's a sin to give away something, a pay-per-view match
No,
on
no.
TV. I know like that in WWE that was like a crime because let's see,
Yeah,
like John Cena versus Shinsuke was on free TV on SmackDown, and it was
yeah.
actually a pretty good match. Obviously, because John can go still, and Shinsuke is just Shinsuke. Um, Obviously there was a bad botch in that, but still, like when you give away some stuff for free, and yes, some things maybe make sense. Like I think Will Hobbs and Ricky Starks was hot, but it shouldn't have been on that card because it obviously was too overblown. It didn't need to have 14, 15, 20, 30 matches, whatever it was, have to save it. So yes, I agree that these card matches are too long, and I think the the best way to sum up uh someone's reaction to all this is like being obviously being a fan in that crowd that day. I'm
Hmm.
assuming some people were just like burnt out and like having to take a break, probably even falling asleep.
Yeah, it happens at
um
WrestleMania a lot, man. These
Happens a
cards
lot of
get really
WrestleMania,
long.
dude.
Yeah,
There's all you see is uh these clips all thrown together on YouTube of these fans falling asleep on these long WWE shows, and hopefully
yeah,
that's gonna die too in WWE. But AEW needs to like fix that now before they start stagnating and just overbooking too much and hurting their own talent. Just
yeah.
book more like just random weekend shows. Why not do that and make it a big deal? Like I don't know what's missing. You have you essentially have four shows because you've got Dark and Elevation, um,
Yeah, I guess
Rampage,
so.
and Dynamite. Uh, I know Dark. I've watched some Dark, and it's actually a fun show. It's a good show. Rampage is, even though it's pre-taped, is a good fun show. Um, I just like there's something in there that could be fixed, and you said I think you nailed it before off obviously off recording this, but a couple months ago it's to add more pay-per-views. I think that's a good start there. Add more
Yeah,
pay-per-views. It doesn't hurt you. Add more pay-per-views. I'm sure you can copyright something silly and it'll work. Like it's not gonna go against you really. It's gonna favor your talent more, and just you can pay them. You can give them what you need to do to keep them happy and keep storylines going. Because long term booking, if you're a purist or if you just love wrestling, you should appreciate long term booking. Long term booking, I think, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I think long
yeah,
term booking, there's nothing wrong with it. It just feels good when you pay attention to a story that you're interested in or the whole world is watching. Like right now, the bloodline. That's gonna pay off so well when
yeah.
Roman drops or gets pinned. So that's the start for me. The one that I think I wanted to talk about was another issue was
Yeah.
the too many stop signing everybody, Tony. Stop signing. At this point, like I don't want anyone from WWE to go anywhere anymore. I hope that's the end. I don't even want like top indie talent, like people that I've seen wrestle in Hog to get. I want them to get it eventually.
Sure, sure. From like a career success
Yeah,
standpoint,
but
of
like
course.
please, like you don't let them waste away on YouTube or on Level
Right.
Up or something. Like please, like give them time. Mainly it's more like I think because I can tell you right now a lot of their top talent were top talent like Private Party, um
Yeah.
the Acclaim, they all came from New York. They all came from New York. Hog, LAX all came did did their stuff from here in the city with Hog, and so like, and there's actually a few talent that have done stuff in Dark and Elevation, which I'm sure they do have a contract, but it's a contract that lets them like per appearance and do your indie stuff. But like I like it. There is some good talent that in the indies out there, not just obviously New York City, that eventually should make it to the bigs, but like quote unquote bigs. But I don't want them to be signed now because they're just gonna be lost, and it's just not gonna look good. And
Yeah, you kind of see what's happened to some of the people who've been lost in the shuffle with like, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like FTR is on AEW, but they're not but they're the champions of like three other shows,
not shows,
which,
just promotions.
yeah, which like as a viewer is just sort of like if you're on AEW and you're one of the top guys, you have probably have some sort of gold around your waist that says AEW on it. So it's just a little bizarre.
Yeah.
Like we know FTR is goated, like they're forever one of the greatest tag teams ever.
Hmm.
It is a little strange when they are like shoved into a Wardlow tag team match on a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Um and I mean this is obviously Malachi Black sounds like he might have some personal stuff going on, but prior to that, he had asked for his release because he didn't like his booking. And Andrade has had a lot of not great
Allegedly,
things
allegedly.
to say.
Which I
Um,
mean, I could believe it too. Like, let's face it, it's overblown and like it's just overbooked.
well, yeah, I mean, the stuff about Malachi, I think what's interesting is just that like he allegedly didn't like his creative direction, which I can't blame him because his creative direction was nothing.
But
Uh,
also, if it's true that he's hurt, and like, one of my friends pointed out because we saw him at basically his last indie booking, I
yeah.
think at House of Glory. He didn't do his singles match. It became a tag
Mm,
team match, and so basically he let Brody King do most of the hard lifting. He did
yeah.
his spots, obviously, he did his stuff. But then he
It's
wasn't as
weird.
physical.
It's weird to see some of these guys get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah,
Like the Swerve in Our Glory, I think that tag team actually is working out really well, like better than I thought it would.
yeah, but
Um,
it
I'm
might not be
personally a
gonna
I'm
be there for
personally
too
a
long.
big fan of those two guys as singles wrestlers,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but I'd be lying if I said like if they were both singles wrestlers right now, I don't know what they would be doing
yeah. And let's face it,
because
they're probably gonna end the tag team soon. And so
like
what's gonna happen? I am nervous. I am.
I I do think that Keith Lee versus Wardlow would be a money match. I think that
That'll be his new Dijak. That could be his new
yeah, I mean
Dijak. Go back and
I
forth.
yeah, I guess this kind of leads into the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is do you think they have too many titles? Does
Yeah. So yeah, we
not
talked. Yeah, we
about
were talking about that. Okay.
not about like how significant certain titles are versus others, but
Mm-hmm.
just cumulatively on AEW at the moment, there are people with titles from completely different promotions.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are on TV with Ring of Honor championships, which doesn't even have its own show, which just seems kind of bizarre to be defending the Ring of Honor title on a
Yeah.
show called AEW Rampage.
Yeah.
And then within the AEW titles, there is the All Atlantic Championship, which has been defended one time. There is on AEW, not AEW Dark Elevation. There's the trios titles, which are kind of going through a little bit of a rocky start right now. Although
Identity crisis.
the trios titles were put on one of the guys who's the All Atlantic champion. So then kind of makes it hard to defend both.
You're not gonna like this, but it was Penta and Phoenix faced Swerve in Our Glory. They
Yeah, I saw, and
uh,
they lost.
yeah.
Um,
So
yeah, they have the mid card women's belt, which I actually thought was a great idea. I really liked that. That's something I wish a WWE would do because it just seems bizarre that you have like so many mid card men's belts, and
yeah,
then like the women is either tag team or the women's champion.
yeah,
It's like there's no middle ground for someone like Dakota
yeah.
Kai, who I think, could use like a mid card belt just so
Hmm.
that people kind of can learn how talented she is.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know. I'll be honest. Like I thought it was a good idea too, but like now, yes. Answering the question, yes. It's again Tony being in my opinion, my theory is him being influenced by other promotions because
yeah.
Mexico, CML,
New
AAA,
Japan,
New
very
Japan.
famous for having
Oh yeah,
so
uh,
many titles.
so many titles. Never open weight, zero weight.
Just a lot of like New Japan does a
Yeah,
lot of meme championships. They're
in a
just
way,
like
they made the U.S.
purposely like
title. They didn't
silly.
need to make U.S. heavyweight title. I mean, they they unified one belt, which was the Intercontinental title, which was a gorgeous belt and one of my favorite belts in
Mm,
all of professional wrestling, including the IWGP Heavyweight title, which
that
now looks
was a
like the Divas
beautiful
and
title.
now it looks like the Divas title.
Oh God, let's not even.
I know, but like, I think he's influenced by that, and like again, only certain companies can get away with that, and in the way I'm kind of being a hypocrite because like let's at least give them a try to make this work.
Sure.
Um, you know, I feel like they come out with a belt now at this point every year.
Well, that's the thing that like had crossed my mind is that like it's becoming a bigger problem. Like when AEW first launched, they had the AEW Championship
And tag belts, and
and
that's
and the
it.
tag belts, and
And
then
then they
like they
made a team.
introduced the mid card, which was
Yeah.
a good idea. And the mid card sort of did its job for a while, but I guess like now we're 3 years in, and it feels like the titles have become more of an issue because the three that I wanted to touch on were the mid card women's belt, which is for some reason on a woman who's 37 and 0,
Hmm.
which just seems like, why are you in the mid card? Like, shouldn't you be challenging for the women's championship, which is
Hmm.
supposed to be? It's weird that the mid card women's title feels more important than
Because
the actual women's championship, which was vacated and Jade Cargill wasn't in the match. That
well,
didn't make
it wasn't even vacated. It was an interim belt.
sorry.
So
The champion said vacated and Tony said interim. So
yeah.
TBD on if she's actually still champion. But the mid card women's belt is a bit confusing. The All Atlantic Championship,
Hmm.
I think they could honestly get rid of right now, and everybody would be like, "That's
Hmm.
fine." I don't. If Pac is the trios champion, then I'm not even sure who. What is the purpose of the All Atlantic Championship? That's the other thing is like sometimes
Yeah.
Tony he's bringing these belts in and like trios we get it, but All Atlantic, who is that's you only have one brand. Like
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. We got to give it a chance too. That's why, like I said, like, yeah, why do you have two? I said the same thing in my head, and I said that out loud too. It's like, why do you have two mid card belts when you only have one entire brand? Yeah, you have two shows. I mean, for that purpose, yeah, make one exclusive to that show and defend it exclusively on that show. Like, I don't know, like when when companies started making internet titles, it was defended and shown on the internet. Made sense.
yeah.
Like that's a cool concept. When the television titles were created for ECW, ROH. I mean, it's funny because ROH made a TV title, but it was never really televised live. You know, like it was still put on TV or somewhere for you
Yeah.
to watch. So yes, I get that, but also like technically, with New Japan, they don't have any shows really. They just have, events. They have events and they have an array of belts that range from top tier and a bunch of mid cards and a bunch of
Yeah.
tags and then also junior division.
Yeah,
So,
but I mean
and
New
guess what? They're
Japan
getting
is
more.
not
They're getting more titles
they're
because
not
they're
without
introducing women.
flaw though. Like I know
Absolutely.
everybody loves Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada facing each other, but like New Japan is not like immune to criticism. They have too many belts.
Yeah.
Is
I
that
mean,
something that Tony should be trying to like emanate here in the States?
he's within his rights to. I feel like I said, I think we can't knock it because look, I'm sure at some point if we look back at articles or maybe back in the 90s or whenever they started making all these titles, I'm sure they face the same criticism. Like, what is New Japan doing? What are the bookers doing? What is Gato doing? I think that's one of the head bookers there. Like, what are they doing? Like, what are they? Why you keep introducing titles? Stop introducing titles. We don't need any. We don't need. We don't need Wrestle Kingdom to be 5 days. I get it, but they make it work, and the fans love it. They eat it up, man. They eat it up. Yeah, it's a different culture out there when it comes to watching wrestling. It's all about staring and cheering after. It's not in the moment all the time. It's not. It's not
Yeah.
chanting. It's different. In Mexico, it's a completely different culture. It's almost like you're in a soccer field. If you ever watch a wrestling
Oh
match in
yeah.
Mexico or watch some of
Yeah.
the clips, it's like you hear like all these like instruments going off. It's like it sounds like you're at a real sporting event.
Vuvuzela.
Yeah, basically. Um, and then you hear cursing, and there's gonna be drunk people there, and there might be fights, and there's gonna be cash being thrown into the ring, which actually does happen here in the States. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that happens here in your indie shows. But it, like, it's something that we have to at least give it a shot. That's
Well,
my only fight, and I think we have to be
yeah.
patient. And that's what your idea comes in is like add more of something, whether
Well,
it's
I
shows or
mean,
something, pay per view,
I think
something.
like part of the frustration that I'm having right now is with the TNT. Is that the Wardlow one?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that frustrates me because, and I hope this doesn't become a trend, but seeing it not be defended on a pay-per-view, on an AEW pay-per-view,
Yeah.
worries me a little bit
I agree with you.
because that title got hot potatoed between Cody and Sammy like 5 times.
Not that
And
much, but
then
yeah,
it was
I get you.
on Scorpio Sky for a hot minute.
That's where I was like, I don't know if I like this. I mean,
Yeah, and then
I was happy Scorpio won it, but then he lost
right,
it.
no, dude, like one of the AEW OGs, like totally deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
But now
Good crowd.
Wardlow's got it, and it sort of feels like no one, like literally no one can beat him because you built him up into this monster. But this is almost like the Jade Cargill problem. Is
Mm-hmm.
like you built this person up into a monster, but then you gave them a title that they have to lose in order to pursue the next higher. Like Wardlow would almost be better with no title because he ideally he doesn't need it because he's such a monster.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's part of the frustration of like there are a lot of titles, and now some of the ones that they had introduced a while ago are not really being booked much. But I also think Rampage should become Ring of Honor, and they should just scrap all of the stupid internet shows. So, I don't see the point of like having all these Ring of Honor titles being defended on AEW because that's not Ring of Honor.
Okay, see with that, I will adamantly defend it more because like Tony is in a transition period with them. He's probably trying to get a team together for ROH. Honestly, you should have probably just kept most of the people there at ROH, in my opinion. But I get it; it's a clean slate. You want to get different people, your team, your vision in there. But honestly, Tony, I don't think you're going to be able, with especially what's going on now with AEW. You're the thing that you created you can't be overseeing two wrestling companies, essentially two wrestling shows that are
Yeah.
one is older than yours and one that's beloved by most, or at some point beloved by most. Um, it's just like it's different. Like these are and he's trying to keep relevance to it. And I think the first ROH show under his management was a success, other than the fact that Jonathan Gresham was not happy, which that story died quickly. I wanted to know
Well,
what the tea was behind that.
yeah.
But like, I think it's a transition period. You need to be patient with that. A lot of this stuff requires patience. If we're being patient with Triple H in the transition of what's going on after a madman and a former genius, or maybe the guy who never was a genius, is finally gone. Perverted old man
Yeah.
is gone. We got to be patient with Trips. I think we got to be patient with what's going with what Tony is trying to do. And again, it's all speculation on my end. The way I see him trying to frame it to try and calm myself down without, trying to lose my mind over a 20 match card is that he is trying to emulate the child inside of all of us who love seeing wrestling, love seeing bells and gold wrapped around all these beefy men and beautiful, strong women and strong people. Uh, you know, he's trying to emulate that here in the States where it wasn't so emulated or was stagnant or became stale in WWE or something that they just never really wanted to dip their feet in terms of creating it. How long did it take to create a women's tag and then an all women's pay-per-view? Like how long did that take? Years, decades.
Oh, years, and they only did
And
it once.
and they only did it once. So and they finally did a women's tournament. Tony
Yeah.
is building up stuff too. And
Oh,
he's
for
building his
sure.
stuff
For
faster than
sure.
they have, for sure, in my opinion.
I
But maybe he should
still,
still, he's pushing down on the gas. Maybe take your feet off a bit more
I
because look what's
guess
going on.
I still stand by that. I think he makes good booking decisions most of the time. I don't like, I hope that people don't, take the last month or whatever of the CM Punk stuff because that's, I don't think, a good reflection of,
Yeah, I don't
then
either.
you're ignoring like the last 2 years of when he put the title on Mox and all the Kenny Omega Mox and
That was
Mox and
great shit,
Jericho, and
man.
like there were so many
Yeah.
amazing things that happened. Um,
Darby being a mid card champion was
yeah.
great. Even just Jericho. I mean, also because let's face it, he was giving a lot of freedom to the wrestlers, and Jericho
Oh
booking his
yeah.
own stuff and putting over talent. He should have put over Kingston, but whatever. Putting
Yeah.
over
Well, look,
Orange
Jericho's
Cassidy.
not gonna get it all right.
Yeah, yeah, but him he put up, and again he's look what he's done. I think I said this is the last couple cast with wrestling and Jericho is like, look what he's created now. He helped get essentially, and like, if you don't think it was Jericho's assistance in getting Daniel Garcia over, you got to be kidding yourself. Daniel Garcia was not going to get over on his own. No offense, like the
No.
kid has talent, but he just skyrocketed to the moon because of Jericho and putting him in a fucking stable. And then guess what happened? He wrestled with Brian, and then Brian shot him up to the moon. It's stuff like that when you're working with and letting those guys, those vets, do their thing. That's how you elevate and create stars, not just with great booking decision or even a good creative team. Just letting wrestlers wrestle. Remember what when Seth and Kofi just went on, the mad dash, what was it called? Beat the clock stuff
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
essentially reignited their pushes. And for Kofi, that essentially made him champion is because he went on that crazy run and the fans wanted to see more.
Yeah.
So
I
let
mean,
wrestlers wrestle. Let
that
the
was a
wrestlers do the thing.
big strategy that Triple H used when he was building NXT was
Yeah.
to just I know you're good. Now go show them why you're good.
Yeah.
Like, and here's 30 minutes. Do whatever you want. Like
Yeah. That
it,
Johnny and Adam Cole match. We know how great they are. They were already great and amazing, but they said, all right, let's try and see what we could do and outdo ourselves. And they went above and beyond and probably one of our favorite matches ever. Granted,
I
I had to
think
like,
that with some of this stuff, it's more that like when you start to notice certain things that may sort of be creeping up as will this become a long-term problem?
mm-hmm.
It's worth just bringing up. We're
Yeah.
fans. Like any true fans, we have a deep, deep hatred for the product that we claim to love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, but you got to be able to look past your own bias and just say, like, is this an issue? Like, is this something we should maybe be paying closer attention to? AEW's done a lot right. It's awesome that they're still going.
Yeah.
I think it's weird that there's like people who hate AEW, and I think it's weird that there's people who hate WWE. If you like
Mm-hmm.
wrestling, watch both.
Yeah.
You don't need to pick a side.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
you
like it's
know,
a console wars thing.
yeah, like, do you like video games or not? Like, if you like wrestling, there's plenty of great stuff happening, plenty of great booking decisions happening in both companies. Even when Vince was running the show, he got a few things right here and there. But there were some things with AEW with their titles and the insane length of their
Mhm.
pay-per-views that, let's just keep a tab on. Put a pin in it.
Yeah.
See if a couple years from now this is still a problem. Maybe a couple years from now there were like
Let's go back to
six
this. Let's come back to
pay-per-views a
this.
year. Yeah, and
Let's
we're
come
like,
back to this. This is like a time capsule moment,
yeah.
So
So
let's see what
just
happens.
just to wrap up
Yeah.
of our little time capsule here, there were too many titles, or there are a lot. Who I don't want to say too many because he might add more.
Mm-hmm.
There are currently a lot of championships. The pay-per-views are the most recent one was 15 matches, pre-show
Rosters
included,
rosters
which
overbooked.
crazy. Yeah, the roster is super stacked, but I think maybe a little too stacked at this
Mm-hmm.
point because they only have one real show.
Yeah.
And the Ring of Honor stuff, I hope gets fleshed out in the next few years because Ring of Honor is like such an, I mean, OG famous
It's
like
what
part of
got
wrestling history.
Punk. It's what got Punk his platform. Tyler. It's what got a lot of your favorite wrestlers
Yeah,
out
I've
there.
never heard of this Punk guy, but I know
Yeah.
Samoa
Sorry.
Joe was huge. Yeah, there were a lot of really great Ring of Honor wrestlers.
Yeah.
Hopefully that gets fleshed out in the next few years.
Hopefully, and it doesn't die. Don't kill it, Tony. But
Please don't.
time to kill this episode. Just kidding. That's it for all. Thank you so much for listening. That's Christopher Langsdorff. My name is Frankie Rodriguez. This is now a wrestling podcast for some reason, but that's okay. We
We're
love
gonna try
wrestling.
to work it in a few wrestling
Yeah,
episodes here
yeah,
and there.
yeah.
Seem to be like we got some good reception.
Yeah, we're gonna
Uh,
we love pop culture, everything, and obviously wrestling is pop culture, but please listen to the other stuff that isn't wrestling related, unless you only like wrestling and only like eating breakfast, by all means, you know. Do what you love, just like Tony loves wrestling. But that's it for now. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.